More Russian soldiers have died in Ukraine than in every American war since World War II, combined. Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of them, added together. Russia has lost more men than that in a single conflict in just 4 years. That number was published not by Ukraine, not by a pro-Western think tank trying to make Russia look bad. It was published by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, one of the most respected and cautious defense research institutions in the world. And that number is just the beginning of what the data shows. Welcome back. On July 1st, 2026, 4 years and 4 months after Russia launched its full-scale invasion, a new study landed that puts the entire war into a perspective that most coverage has never attempted. More than 2 million soldiers have been killed, wounded, or reported missing in this conflict. 2 million. That is roughly the population of Vienna, or Houston, or the entire country of Slovenia, all of them soldiers, gone from the battlefield in 4 years. The study was produced by CSIS, using their own analysis combined with data from British military intelligence, the independent Russian outlet Mediazona working together with the BBC, and interviews with officials from the United States, Europe, and Ukraine. These are not Ukrainian government figures. These are not propaganda. These are the most conservative, most carefully sourced estimates available from the Western research community. And what they show is staggering. Let's go through the numbers one comparison at a time, because that is the only way to understand what they actually mean. Russia has lost between 400,000 and 500,000 soldiers killed. That is the confirmed dead, not wounded, not missing, dead. Now compare that to this. The United States has fought in Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Across all of those conflicts spanning over 70 years, America lost roughly 100,000 soldiers killed. Russia has lost 4 times that number in 4 years in a single war. To go further back, Russia's own military fatalities in Ukraine are more than 17 times greater than Soviet losses in Afghanistan during the entire 1980s, 11 times greater than both Chechen wars combined, more than 5 times greater than all Russian and Soviet wars put together since World War II. Now, here is what makes that even more extraordinary. Russia has been advancing, slowly but advancing, and this is the number that should stop everyone cold. The CSIS study calculated Russia's average rate of advance in its most prominent offensives since January 2024. In the Pokrovsk offensive, one of Russia's biggest pushes, Russian forces advanced just under 50 kilometers over nearly 2 years. That works out to an average of 70 meters per day. In the Chasiv Yar offensive, the pace was even slower, roughly 10 kilometers over the same period. 15 meters per day, 15 meters, that is about the length of a city bus. For comparison, Allied forces at the Battle of the Somme in World War I, one of the bloodiest and most notoriously slow battles in military history, advanced faster than Russia is advancing in Ukraine right now. Russia is paying the highest price any major military power has paid in any conflict since 1945. And it is moving slower than armies did in the mud of 1916. Now, look at the Ukrainian side of the ledger, because this story is not only about Russian losses. Ukraine has suffered between 525,000 and 625,000 total casualties, between 125,000 and 150,000 killed. These are devastating numbers. Ukraine is a country of roughly 35 million people. Its losses are real, painful, and historically significant. But here is the ratio, and this is the number that defines where the war stands right now. For most of the conflict, Russia lost roughly 2 to 2.5 soldiers for every Ukrainian soldier lost. That was already an extraordinary disadvantage for an attacker. Military doctrine typically requires an attacker to accept 3-to-1 losses or worse when assaulting prepared defenses. Russia was somehow managing to be the attacker while losing at that ratio. But in the first half of 2026, according to the study, that ratio shifted dramatically. Russia is now losing approximately 8 soldiers for every Ukrainian soldier lost, 8-to-1 in 2026. To understand why that number has changed so sharply, you need to connect it to everything else that has happened in this war over the past 6 months. Ukraine's drone campaign now strikes Russian forces before they can assemble for an attack. The The strike on the Sloviansk front showed that entire mechanized columns can be destroyed before reaching the first defensive line. The electronic warfare bubble deployed at Lyman showed that Ukraine can protect its own attacking forces from Russian drone response. The systematic destruction of Russian air defenses across Crimea and European Russia means Russian forces are increasingly exposed to strikes they cannot intercept. And the fuel crisis spreading across 56 Russian regions means the convoys bringing ammunition and reinforcements to the front move slower, get intercepted more often, and arrive less reliably. The ratio did not change because Russia suddenly got worse at fighting. It changed because Ukraine systematically made every Russian military activity more dangerous, more expensive, and less effective simultaneously. Now, let's look at one more comparison, one that speaks to what this war is doing to Russia as a country, not just as a military. Russia's losses in this war are now equivalent to between 0.5 and 1.2% of all Russian men under 60 years old. In other words, between 1 in 80 and 1 in 200, Russian men of fighting age has already been killed or wounded in Ukraine. And crucially, those losses are not evenly distributed. Putin has drawn most of his soldiers from regions far from Moscow and St. Petersburg, from Siberia, from the Far East, from the North Caucasus, from Tuva in Buryatia and Dagestan. CSIS notes this directly. Putin may be willing to accept these numbers because the soldiers dying are from regions that have little political power in Russia's capital. The families mourning in Tuva do not march in Moscow. But that calculation has limits. 2 million total casualties is a number that reaches into every corner of a country. Teachers who notice their students' fathers are not coming home. Hospitals that know the real figures even if the newspapers don't print them. Small towns in Siberia where the young men are simply gone. In February 2026, Western officials reported for the first time that Russia was losing more soldiers than it could recruit, losing 40,000 per month since November 2025, faster than replacements were arriving. A military that is shrinking under fire even while it is still attacking. And the ratio is getting worse, not better. Here is the final comparison that should stay with you. In the Second World War, the Soviet Union suffered catastrophic losses and still won because it had the industrial capacity, the territory, and the population to absorb those losses and keep fighting. Russia in 2026 has none of those advantages. Its fiscal reserves are gone. Its largest refinery is offline for 6 months. Its Crimean supply routes are severed. Its central bank chief has vanished. Its fuel is running out in 56 regions. This is not a country that can absorb 2 million casualties and keep going indefinitely. The math was always going to catch up. It just took 4 years and 2 million soldiers to get here.